So one of the most influential factors in car buying, more than performance, more than looks, or even fuel economy, is value. And what we'll be reviewing today is probably one of the most value-packed crossover SUVs in the market today, and you're gonna find out just why. What's going on, guys? Roy Robbs here from Zigwheels.Ph, and today we'll be reviewing a car you've been asking for so long, the BYD Sealion 5 DMI. So the BYD Sealion 5 DMI is the little brother to the ever so popular BYD Sealion 6 DMI. This is classified as a subcompact crossover SUV, but because of its dimensions, I think it can inch its way a little bit closer to the compact segment and make it one of the best in its class. But let's start with how it looks like. From the front end, you got this interesting looking LED DRLs to give it a little bit more character, especially when going down the road. When you compare it to the BYD Sealion 6 with a singular DRL right here below, I think this looks a lot more aggressive. More of that aggression carries over to the grille right here in the front. You got this two-tone looking grille with some silver looking accents right there in the middle, which the BYD Sealion 6 of course does not have. It has a cleaner looking exterior, and you got the BYD logo and badge right there. You got twin vents right there at the bottom to cool down both the engine and of course the battery. You don't get a side camera right here in the side mirrors, but you do have repeater signals, which is nice and interesting. And you have 18-inch alloy wheels, 225/60 R18 tires on these wheels. It looks really interesting, giving it really this huge compact crossover SUV look. But again, it's just a subcompact. Don't let the dimensions fool you. But thanks so much to BYD Philippines for giving us this huge option in this small segment. Of course, you got black plastic claddings right here. You've got this interesting pattern right here on the D pillar. Kind of looks like Aquaman's belt, but pretty much like on the BYD Atto 3, its previous iteration before the facelift. I kind of prefer this to be blacked out, but it is what it is. It adds a little bit of contrast and color to the side right here. At least it matches the roof rails right here on top. And you got 156 millimeters of ground clearance working for you right there. It's not going to be the highest, but again, you have to consider that this is a subcompact crossover SUV, and its main purpose is to give you all the comfort and all the space. So getting in and out of the vehicle is going to be a lot easy. You got a gas cap right here on the side and a charging cap on the other side, because this is a range extended vehicle, not just an electric vehicle, not just an ICE. You get the best of both worlds, but we'll be talking about that later on. Right here in the back, let's open up the tailgate, shall we? You've got a huge amount of space to work with. You don't have a power tailgate. Again, that's to lower the price of this vehicle, which I'll be saying on later on. You have a tonneau cover, a really solid tonneau cover. And underneath here, you got all the tools that you need to inflate your tire. Unfortunately, no spare tires right here because you won't be able to fit one because of the huge battery underneath. 12.9 kilowatts, or should I say 13 kilowatt hours of battery, giving you good enough for 71 kilometers of pure EV range. We'll be talking about all the driving impressions later on. Now, you can even put a huge box right here in the back. And if you need even more space, you can fold those rear seats down. They fold flat, so you can fit longer items as well. You got the solid cover right here, cubby holes on each side. Pretty straightforward, and something I appreciate especially in this segment. Now, on the outside, you've got this nice looking light bar running across the rear of the vehicle. Now, notice that the light bar is usually a lot lower compared to the entire body. It seems to be situated right in the middle of the body, so you get the top part and the lower part. This creates some sort of visual effect that you're driving around in a much bigger vehicle than it actually is. Not that it needs it, because it's pretty big on its own, but it just creates that particular effect. You got reflectors on each side, the DMI badge, knowing that you are driving around in a DMI vehicle. And of course, BYD Sealion 5 proudly strewn across right there. This is where you find your rear camera and 4 parking sensors right there to help you out with parking the vehicle. Now, one thing about the design of the BYD Sealion 5 DMI is that, unlike It's other competitors where it tries to break the mold, being too sporty, kind of out there. They're trying a little bit of restraint. And just like being an adult trying to buy your own car, a little bit of restraint is necessary to make sure that you create this classic look. You want to make sure that you get the most appeal to the most number of people. And I think this really fits the bill. Now let's take a look at the inside and see what we can find inside the BYD Sealion 5 DMI. All right, so inside the BYD Sealion 5 DMI, you would be surprised with the amount of fit and finish, with the quality of the fit and finish on the inside as opposed to its supposed price. Now you've got soft touch materials basically everywhere, even on the door cards, the dashboard. You have this nice pattern, touch pattern right here on the middle of the dashboard. The only thing that I have against this though is the piano black accent right there in the middle of the dashboard. It's like, yeah, you're definitely not going to touch this part of the piano black, but just staring at it seems to be adding a little bit more smudge to it. Even if you got a microfiber cloth to wipe it around. Anyway, that's how much I don't like piano black, but some people do love it, and I guess that's a nice compromise, having just that portion having the piano black. You got more of that though right here in the steering wheel, but that's just fine. Speaking of the steering wheel, it's got a nice texture to it. You've got some stitching right here on the medial part of it as well. It's two-toned, by the way, and D-shaped, giving you this nice tactile feel. It's also adjustable for both reach, not by much though, and rake. So getting your optimum driving position is easy. You don't get power adjustable seats. They don't have any 360-degree camera system. You do have a nice looking backup camera right there with 4 parking sensors. At least that will help you out. Now it doesn't have a panoramic sunroof, no need for that, but you do have this 10.1-inch touchscreen infotainment system with both wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, blasting tunes through 6 speakers on the inside. Again, I'm not an audiophile, and I know what I like, and compared to the other sound systems right there we previously reviewed, it's not going to be mind-blowing at all. It is adequate, and it's just fine for me. As long as it can play my lo-fi sounds, my hip-hop, and my rock sounds, it's fine. I don't have to hear the minutia, mid-tones, whatever. It's fine. It's just fine. Now, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, it's good, and it has that neat party trick of going into TikTok mode, which means you can actually orient this in a vertical manner, giving you even more, more diversity with how it looks. Fortunately, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto does not work on portrait mode, so you'll have to keep it this way. Now, one thing I do appreciate about it, it has a nice refresh rate and touch refresh rate, so it actually feels like a tablet as it moves over. One thing that you might not know about BYD is that BYD also manufactures some iPad displays and touch panels, so I think they know a little bit about touch screens. So they applied it right here. Maybe that's what they got it from. You also have this nice digital gauge cluster here. All the information that you need for your drive is right here. You got your battery, you got your trip meter, you even have options here to control your air conditioning, the temperature, and the fan speed. Of course, all your drive details, and interestingly enough, a 0 to 100 timer. Why would you need that on a crossover SUV? I have no idea. One nifty trick that the BYD Sealion 5 DMI has is, lo and behold, it's got physical buttons. That's right. In an age where all of the cars right now are cramming in all the controls right here on the screen, they still gave us a nice set of physical buttons right here. A volume scroll wheel. You got AC buttons right here. Drive mode selector, parking brake, automatic brake hold. It's all right there easily at the touch of your fingerprints, or should I say fingertips. Now, even though you have all those features, and even you can change the fan settings and temperature settings right here on the steering wheel, BYD is the only car that I know that has touch gestures. So using 3 fingers on the screen, scrolling up and down, makes you change the temperature, nice, and scrolling left to right, change the fan speed. So going all the way up to 7, blasts the air right in front of your face. But let's put it down a little bit to number 2. There we go. The seats are they're very comfortable and very supportive. They're not too aggressively bolstered to fit my chunky frame right here. And the leather, although not of the best quality, remember this is a subcompact crossover SUV, is certainly passable, especially for longer drives and all that. And I see that using this type of leather material will last you a lot longer than, say, using regular leather or cheaper kind of leather. One thing that I have a dig against it though is the cream color on it. 5 years down the line, maybe 3 years, depending on how much you sweat, these will definitely leave a mark. That's gonna leave a mark right there. But right now, they look fabulous, especially with those orange inserts right there on the seats. We got a center armrest right here and a cubby hole, 2 cup holders, and 2 USB ports, one for USB-A, USB-C, cubby hole right there. Everything that you need is right in front of you, and a dead pedal to make things easier to drive. All right, so right here in the back seat, you're pampered with the same quality of leather that we have for the front seat passengers and the driver. So you got the same stitching right here, orange stitching, and a lot of space. Now, since we're riding on BYD's modular architecture right here, you've got a flat floor. So you don't have any center tunnels. You got the blade battery right underneath that. It's pretty much like a skateboard right there at the bottom. It's flat and nice, so it gives you more space for your feet. You have 2 map pockets right here on the side. The side windows closed just a little bit right there, but if you need to hang your elbow right out the window, chilling like a villain, this is perfectly fine. It doesn't feel claustrophobic because of the aforementioned D-pillar windows right there. You don't get any fake window fakery, all sorts of that stuff. And you get your own aircon vents. Now, I know it's just a dual zone automatic climate control for both the passengers right there front, but at least you get your own aircon vents, 2 aircon vents actually, so you don't have to fight over who gets to have the cooler knees. You also have 2 USB ports, one USB-A and one USB-C, so no need to fight over that as well. And got lots of space for your head, for your knees. See, I'm even riding behind my own natural driving position, and I still have this much space for my knees, and my feet are nice and comfortable underneath the seat, despite being mounted all the way down right there as per my driving position. One thing that I've noticed with BYD vehicles is that they might be getting inspiration, like all cars do, from all of the other cars, but once you see a BYD, you know it's a BYD. It's not really an iteration. It's not iterative of any other cars, and that's something I appreciate. One thing that you might appreciate is a center armrest right here. It's nice, and the seats are actually reclinable. Ah, that's nice. Okay, 2 cup holders, all good. I would be okay with riding right there here in the back in case during long trips. I still would be preferring to be driving this thing. So speaking of drive, let's head on out, and I've got a lot to tell you about how DMI applies itself to a subcompact crossover SUV, probably one of the hottest segments in the market today. All right, so we're now behind the wheel of the BYD Sealion 5 DMI. So you've got a 1.5 liter naturally aspirated engine under the hood, mated to an electric motor. All in all, it makes 197 horsepower, so basically 200 horsepower, and 300 Newton meters of torque. And if you can imagine that kind of power in a small crossover SUV, that is more than enough power that can definitely get you going. So one thing that I love about this DMI technology is that it's primarily electric power. So you have 2 ways. You got EV mode and HEV mode. So you got electric mode or hybrid mode. So with electric mode, you can reach up to 71 kilometers on just pure electric before you can actually turn on the gasoline motor to charge it back up. So you got 2 steering modes, sport and comfort, and its turning radius for a car this size is pretty respectable, 5.8 meters, almost like a hatchback, and acceleration is pretty good. By the way, you get multiple drive modes here. You got normal, eco, and sport. Once you're in sport mode, it does not hold back on the power. Anyway, let's just keep that on eco mode, because that's what this car is made for anyway, achieving the most number of kilometers as possible. Power delivery is very abrupt for being an electric vehicle. So as I've mentioned in earlier reviews, if it says 200 horsepower and 300 torques of EV power, that's that's comparing this to EV power. Because if you have an ICE engine or ICE, if it says 300 newton meters of torques, it actually has to rev up to a particular RPM before it achieves that particular power rating. But with an electric, see, even broken traction, the tires couldn't handle that much torque and that much power on this car. And that is just amazing, because as soon as you mash that pedal, the car knows that you want to go fast. It gives you that power right away. Straight away. And the only thing holding back the BYD Sealion 5 are the tires. Admittedly, those are great. Those are okay tires. They're not the worst tires out there, but give it some really nice tires, some top of the line tires. This will really fly. If you remember our first review of the BYD Atto 3, I kind of had my reservations about it, but then I reviewed the new one, the updated one with the better tires. It felt like a completely different vehicle, and I'm sure that the BYD Sealion 5 will feel the same way. It just needs more grip. Surprisingly, with this segment though, you wouldn't be surprised if you had a McPherson strut setup up front and a torsion bar in the back. The thing with the Sealion 5 DMI though is that you get independent suspension all around. So you got a McPherson strut setup up front and a multi-link suspension in the back. So that's why it actually feels much bigger, much more stable and solid, especially when going down the highway, than most other subcompact crossover SUVs. And that's what I appreciate about this car, and I like how it feels. I like how its composure is, especially during high speed and when traversing traffic, like what we have right now. Supposedly, I'm looking for traffic, but it seems to be a little lighter today. But traversing the traffic, it feels like a more expensive car than it really is. So NVH levels are top notch, especially for this segment. Now, usually, we don't get any sound deadening windows in this car, though, being at its own price point, but it keeps a lot of the noise of the outside world where it's supposed to be. Outside, not inside. And you don't feel any engine vibrations because, of course, what's on most of the time is the electric motor. But if you put it in HEV mode, you can start to feel the switch over from the engine to the electric motor. And to be honest, it's not one of the smoothest transitions from electric to gasoline, because you can actually feel it turning off almost to the point of stalling. But once you get used to that particular feeling of driving in a DMI vehicle, you won't give it much thought. You'll only feel it a couple of situations where you're running really fast and you're suddenly stopping, and then you feel the engine. The engine suddenly feels that you're stopping or slowing down, so it needs to turn off the engine, and then you feel like it's stalling. But it's not actually going to stall on you, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just a couple of rough edges that needs some getting used to. By the way, we started shooting this vehicle around 7 a.m. in the morning. Right now, it's around 11:05, 11 in the morning, and we kept the engine right on just to test out how efficient that electric motor really is. And of course, it's hot outside, despite the fact that it has been raining. It's been absolutely humid, horrible, hot weather. So we want to have the air conditioning on. Now, I started off at 75%, and right now, we're at 37%, and I'm still running on EV mode. So that's how efficient this thing really is. But if you want to get a full idea of how fuel efficient the BYD Sealion 5 is, put it on HEV mode and then forget. Just have fun while you're driving. And the fuel economy that I got, check this out, 19 to 20 kilometers per liter. Where, you say? Highway or city? Any. So it doesn't really matter whether you go on highway drives or city drives. I personally get the same. I virtually get the same fuel economy from both city and highway drives. So 19 to 20 kilometers per liter on both city and highway. That is insane, which means that BYD's claims of you getting up to 1,001 kilometers on a single full tank and a single full charge, that is just easy to attain. It's something that's realistic. A lot of car companies would give you all these figures and facts. Sometimes they might be a little short, but it's the first time that I'm actually driving in a vehicle that their claimed fuel economy is actually the actual fuel economy, and that is something I appreciate in this car. Safety features, it's very rudimentary. I mean, you don't get advanced driver assist systems here, but you do get your backup camera, pretty nice screen as well. You get cruise control, you got hill descent assist, you got stability control, you got traction control, and of course this advanced traction control. We got grass, grit, snow on. So if you feel that the roads are getting a little bit slippery, just turn that on, and it's got your adaptive traction control system turned on as well. Just make sure that you drive still as carefully as possible, or if you really want more grip, remember what I said, just turn on, just add more, better tires. You still have multiple airbags around, ABS with electronic brake force distribution, backup sensors and all that. You don't get blind spot monitoring systems, but that's perfectly fine because you do have good visibility all around. So basically what it says that if you want to have adaptive cruise control and all those advanced level 2, level 3 driving assist, you won't find it right here. What does all those lacking features give this particular car? It gives you value. The BYD Sealion 5 DMI is priced at just 1,198,000 pesos. Now that is, according to their website, an introductory price, and it's going to end by the end of this year. So you might want to grab your BYD Sealion 5 DMI as soon as possible. But to be honest, even if it goes to its regular price of above 1.2 million pesos, it's still a lot of car to handle. It's a lot of power, a lot of torque, a lot of kilometers per liter, I gotta say. Probably with the way I drive myself, I'm going to have to fill this up just once a month. And wouldn't that be nice? Just a 56, you just need 56 liters on this car. That's around 2,000, 2,500 pesos per month on just running your car alone. That is insane. And you don't have to charge it. I mean, charging your car with a full electric vehicle would probably cost more if you're, instead of just driving around in a DMI vehicle. And that's why a lot of people are flocking towards this type of technology. You see a lot of BYD Sealion 6s on the road. They're starting to turn the Seal 5 into a taxi conveyance system. And I myself, I'm really attracted at that car. Check out my review right here on the description box below. So that's our full review of the BYD Sealion 5 DMI. At 1,198,000 pesos for an introductory price, I'd say that is more features, more car, more power, and most importantly, more kilometers that you can get at that particular price point. It gives you DMI technology, electrified power, gasoline power as well, so you don't get the range anxiety, and it's got enough toys to play with on the inside, knowing that you get your money's worth for the 1,198,000 pesos. But I want to know what you think. Drop me a comment in the comment section down below, and while you're at it, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification icon so you wouldn't miss any of our videos. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Roy Robles from Zigwheels.Ph. I'll see you guys next time.